When I was 14, I planned my wedding.
This one's wife. Hall of Fame snub. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife hasn't been seen for some time, at least not publicly. We continue to have the daily appearance on her as ever Instagram as she shows us yet more people who have purportedly decided to buy some gerbil food and throw it over cookies, crepes, or anything else that takes their fancy. But we haven't heard from her. We haven't seen her turn up and elbow her way onto a red carpet. She hasn't appeared making an anodyne and beige-infused speech. We haven't seen her pushing and pulling Harry around. Indeed, Harry appears to have buggered off somewhere else, having gone to Angola and reportedly going off-grid and spending some time in Botswana. But despite the fact that we haven't seen much of either of them, and in particular this one's wife, for something in the region of 3 to 4 weeks now, interestingly, it's claimed that she has suffered another setback. You'll recall at the beginning of the year that this one's wife heralded her return to Instagram, as South Park memorably described her as the Instagram-loving bitch wife, by frolicking on the beach like some kind of overexcited teenager, as she repeatedly wrote 2025 in the sand until she got it right, and basically proclaimed that this was her year. Yes, this was her year whereby her program got put back, that she was mocked and ridiculed and indeed criticized for her grief-ghouling, her tragedy tourism for the Los Angeles wildfires. The fact that her as-ever launch had to be precipitated by her telling us all about it as she was sat in the garden having a wee. That the product range consisted of Solent Red, crappy gerbil food, cookies, and crepes that look positively anemic, later added to with tea and apricot spread, and latterly the as-ever rosé, which nobody has ever seen drinking. They're only ever seen pouring it or holding up glasses. She was mocked in relation to the Billie Eilish video that she put up. She was criticised in relation to the way that she has gone about marketing as ever. The attempts to force a reconciliation with the royal family have similarly been met with ridicule. Family Guy has taken another pot at her. Lemonada have decided not to proceed with her any further after her quite simply ridiculously boring Confessions of a Female Founder, whereby she imparted the square root of fuck all in relation to business advice and once again made it all about her being a mum. She turned up on 2 other persons' podcasts, the much derided Jamie Three Names, whereby there was the most sickening and insufferable exchange between these 2 ridiculous women, and one where at least the podcast host knew what she was talking about, but this one's wife once again demonstrated that she had very little to offer. Ultimately, the Netflix contract is not to be renewed, and despite her proclaiming that she was getting a Season 2, which was really just Part 2 of Season 1, as we are nearly at the end of 7 months, it's fair to say that this year has not been a good year for this one's wife. Indeed, it would be fair to say that it's been a positive disaster for her. And it would appear that insult has been added to injury as a consequence of the fact that she has been snubbed by a Hall of Fame. Apparently, the audience laughed at this one's wife after her gift went unrecognised by A-listers at the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. According to this report, when this one's wife made an unexpected appearance at the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, few anticipated the uproar it would cause. And not in the way that she expected. Sitting among wrestlers, sport legends, and A-list celebrities, the Duchess of Sussex was greeted with confusion and even laughter from the audience when her presence went unacknowledged by the event's headliners. What should have been a glamorous event turned into a sobering reminder of this one's wife's waning public support and her perceived desperation for relevance. This event seems to have passed me by, given the fact that I repeatedly utilised the narcissism of this one's wife as a teaching tool. I naturally have a reasonable look at what she's been up to vis-a-vis the news and various reports on other forums, etc. And I don't recall there being any attendance at the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Indeed, this article, which has only just come out, relates to an event that took place in Las Vegas on April the 18th, some 3 months ago. You would, of course, expect it to be commenting far closer to the event itself, and moreover, there's no record whatsoever of her either attending the event or being subjected to audience laughter. Yes, once again, this is another instance of the peddling of misinformation on the internet when it comes to this one's wife. The culprit is a site called Uzwatun, which regularly posts on the hour nonsense about this one's wife. But unfortunately, once again, people are taken in by these snippets of misinformation. Now, as you know, I am not a defender of this one's wife. I am a critic of hers. I'm a critic of her because I frankly find her a dull, beige, boring, insufferable individual. However, she serves a purpose to me because she's an excellent example of narcissism in action, and lots of people are interested in her. Which means I get to tell lots of people why she behaves in the way that she does, thus informing them so they don't make the mistakes about why she behaves as she does. I get to demonstrate various aspects of narcissism using a walking, talking, famous example, and it extends my reach given the level of interest that people have in her. I'm certainly no supporter of this one's wife. She is a tool that is to be utilised by me. My criticisms of her are naturally based upon the evidence that is placed before me. There's little to be gained by engaging in repeated ad hominem attacks against her. You may decide that she merits it, but ultimately it becomes stale and boring. The whole point of this channel is to inform and to educate. And whenever it comes to dealing with the narcissist, one of the things that I explain to many of the people that I consult with is the importance of going to the evidence, of scrutinizing the evidence, of building the evidence, because evidence is what defeats narcissists. And it is also important to go to the evidence to form a rational view of what is going on so that you are not hoodwinked. And once again, we have another instance of a provider issuing information which is incorrect, that it didn't happen, that it's misleading, but unfortunately people still accept that this was the case. As you are aware, from time to time, and increasingly so given that there appears to be an increase in this behaviour, I will identify instances where misleading information has been put forward. 1, to demonstrate that it is incorrect. 2, to reinforce the necessity of going to evidence, which is an excellent practice for people to adopt. And 3, to point out that this behaviour is counterproductive when it comes to dealing with this one's wife and Harry. You see, the fact is that those two, cloaked in the garb of virtue, wield misinformation as a weapon to sculpt their public image, and at the same time they ruthlessly seek to silence those who dare to challenge their curated narrative. It's no trifling matter. I know that there are other individuals who are content creators on YouTube who spend a considerable amount of time looking to unearth information about this one's wife and Harry, and certain individuals look to do so with regard to their belief that Harry and this one's wife are engaged in the suppression of information, the dissemination of misinformation and disinformation, and the necessity of silencing their critics. These individuals undertake detailed and labour-intensive work. You'll be familiar with who these individuals are. Those that pump out misleading, speculative without saying it as such, rather make it seem like it's the gospel truth. Those individuals that pump out nonsense in the pursuit of clicks and likes and money are not only undoing the good work of those genuine evidence gatherers and truth seekers with whom you'll be familiar, but they are also continuing to allow the Sussexes to do what they want, which is to misinform and to silence. You may well think it's extraordinary that individuals that hold themselves out as critics of this one's wife engage in such behaviour which is effectively shooting themselves in the foot. But they do. Not only do they dismantle the hard work of genuine pursuers of the truth, but they make it easier for this one's wife and Harry to get what they want. Now, these purveyors of the misinformation, I'm not suggesting that they do it on purpose to assist this one's wife. Rather, I see it as a collateral consequence of their own narrow focus on the pursuit of clicks and likes, etc. But what is evident is that there is also a risk that when they do this, that this one's wife may well possibly engage in similar release of misinformation about herself to cloud it all the more, so that scorn is poured on those that generally uncover the truth about her. And as I've explained, by pointing to the misinformation, it cross-pollutes against that which she wants to be actually hidden. You see, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex create a narrative of one of compassion, progress and victimhood. It's a tale through PR that's designed to captivate hearts and minds. Yet beneath this veneer, this facade, is an attempt to engage in the deliberate dissemination of misinformation. This isn't mere error on their part or oversight. It is a tool to manipulate perception, to secure loyalty and deflect scrutiny. Misinformation in their hands is a sculptor's chisel, carving a reality that aligns with their ambitions while obscuring inconvenient truths. How does this misinformation manifest from them? Consider their public statements, their interviews and media ventures, each a mosaic of half-truths and selective omissions. They present themselves as champions of the marginalised, yet their narrative often glosses over the contradictions, such as their lavish lifestyle juxtaposed against claims of simplicity, or their calls for privacy while courting global attention. They deploy misinformation to paint themselves as perennial victims of the media, of the monarchy, of you, thereby garnering sympathy and deflecting accountability. They seek to frame every critique as an attack born of envy or prejudice. They transform legitimate questions into personal assaults, rallying their supporters to their cause, and we've all seen the way they behave. This strategy fortifies their brand. In an age where public perception is currency, their narrative of victimhood and virtue resonates with certain individuals that seek heroes in a fractured world. Not the likes of you, but there are still plenty of people that are influenced by this. By creating stories of struggle, often embellished or selectively edited, they tap into emotional reservoirs, ensuring a loyal following with the view to ensure that drowns out dissent with fervent adoration. The presentation of misinformation insulates them from accountability. When facts are malleable, criticism becomes a battle against shadows. A misstep is reframed as a misunderstanding. A contradiction becomes a conspiracy. This is not mere spin by them. It is a deliberate fog designed to obscure and confuse. Yet their ambitions extend beyond crafting a narrative. They seek to control it entirely. Critics, those brave souls who dare to question the Sussexes' version of events, are not merely rebutted, but targeted for silence. This one's wife and Harry employ a multifaceted arsenal to silence dissent. Their first weapon is the legal cudgel. Lawsuits, cease and desist letters, and threats of litigation are wielded not just to defend, but to intimidate the narcissist's need for control. The message is clear. Challenge us and face ruin, financially and emotionally. The cost of speaking out becomes prohibitive, discouraging all but the most resolute. Beyond the courts, they harness the power of their public platform. Through carefully timed social media posts, documentaries, or interviews, they rally their supporters into a digital army, ready to vilify critics as haters, racists, or relics of a bygone era. This is not debate, it is character assassination, where the critics' motives are impugned and their voices drowned in a chorus of outrage. The Sussex's followers, primed by their narrative of victimhood, become enforcers, policing discourse with zeal. This tactic then ensures that criticism is not just countered, but erased, buried beneath a deluge of orchestrated loyalty. And when misinformation is created by those critics, it provides food for those supporters of the Sussexes to say, "See, here's another example. They are at it again." The Sussexes exploit the media's hunger for access. By granting exclusives to sympathetic outlets or journalists, they create a feedback loop where only their version of events is amplified. And if they want to maintain that victimhood, then they are being given a free shot at goal by those that continue to pump out misinformation. Individuals who deviate from the script, journalists, commentators, or even former allies are ostracized, their credibility undermined through whispers of bias or betrayal. In this way, the Sussexes cultivate an echo chamber, where dissent is not just silenced, but rendered unthinkable. Why do they go to such lengths to silence critics? Well, as you know from my work, criticism is a threat to control, and it seeks to undo the residual benefits that this one's wife enjoys so much. But the actual fact is, truth is ultimately their Achilles heel. A single crack in their narrative, a verified contradiction, a documented falsehood, threatens the entire edifice of their public persona. Critics, with their pesky facts and questions, are not mere annoyances, but they're actual existential threats to this one's wife. To maintain their power, this one's wife and Harry must ensure that their version of reality reigns supreme, unchallenged and unassailable. And those that continue to peddle misinformation about them are giving them the ability to continue to reign. Their reliance on misinformation really reveals a deeper truth. Their empire is built on perception, not substance. By seeking to control the narrative through distortion and silencing those who question it, they secure their influence, their wealth, and their relevance. Thus, by obscuring the truth, by creating this misinformation, it then means that the ability to clear this fog of misinformation becomes all the more difficult. It means that the battered critics find it harder to land those blows. If you want to ensure the irrelevance and exposure of this one's wife, do not give credence to those places that peddle the misinformation. Avoid them, call them out, and recognize for yourself where they lurk. It is not for me to tell you what you should see, what you should read. You are intelligent enough to work that out for yourselves. But what I do say is utilize the evidence, apply the critical thinking, and avoid allowing the narcissist and her stooge what she seeks. I'm H.G. Tuydor. Thank you for listening.